Hi, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter, your Sports Illustrated beat writer covering the Las Vegas Raiders. Thank you for joining us today. We greatly appreciate you. Remember, you can follow me on Instagram when you go to @HondoSR and X, formerly known as Twitter, when you go to @HondoCarpenter. Also, si.com/NFL/Raiders is where you go for all of your coverage of the Las Vegas Raiders. It's 100% free. We are putting up well over 10 pieces of content every single day about your beloved Raiders. Nobody's giving you that much coverage, and it's 100% free. So make sure you're checking it out and enjoying it. We appreciate all of you. Today is going to be all dedicated to answering your Las Vegas Raiders questions and emails and comments and going at it. So let's get started right away. The first one comes to us from Kevin G. Hi, Hondo. I am completely convinced if we took, say, Spencer Rattler in the second, and next year he went in after 8 games and finished the year 5-4, in the last 5 games through 8 touchdowns and 1 interception, had 0 turnovers and beat KC on Christmas, the same guys who want AC gone would be cheering for him and wanting a statue built for him in front of the Death Star. Just silly. We don't know how good he can or can't be at this time. Thanks, Kevin G. P.S. I have no problem with you hearing no problem with hearing about your dad. I was raised by a single mom and just wish I had memories with a dad like that, like you, seeing Cutie Dexter and lovely Shannon. So first of all, thank you so much for that. I appreciate it, Kevin G. I disagree with that. If they had taken Rattler in the third, I think people have this mindset that it's got to be a first rounder. And look at the first rounders that Aiden outplayed last year. Still doesn't get any respect. Again, I am not and have never said that I think Aiden is the next Kenny Stabler. We don't know. But the Raiders saw enough and understood the circumstances to say, okay, we're going to back off. We'll go get a Gardner and we'll do what we're going to do, but we're going to back off because we want to see what the kid can do. I think that's smart. That's smart drafting. It's understanding that these guys are in a marathon. They're not in a sprint. I think it's an understanding of just where they're at, but I agree with you. I disagree with your analysis about Spencer in the third round. I don't care who they took in the third round. They weren't gonna. People just have this feeling. I'll give you an example. Okay. You can go get a piece of beef at a Texas Roadhouse and you can go to a very expensive restaurant that when they serve it, the plate sizzles. Still beef. And sometimes people just think if you go to a certain place, it's better. I'll give you another one. I have a buddy who manages a very well-known retail store in our country. He manages one of them. And their unbranded items are made by the exact same companies who make the branded, but to get on their shelves, which is a big deal, those people have to agree to make unbranded products, which they sell at a reduced rate, but it's the exact same product. And you'll hear people argue, oh, I would never buy unbranded this or whatever. It's not as good. And he laughs and he's told me and he's told Shannon, when you go to our store, man, buy the unbranded. It's the exact same. Anyways, my point to you is that there are some people that are just convinced it's not a first rounder. They just don't have any value. You can't fix that. That's people's perception. And it's just the way you go. So anyways, but I appreciate your point and I appreciate your kind words about my family. The next one comes in to us from Matt O. Matt says, I'm 30 years old, been a lifelong fan of the Raiders and love the work you do. I have a question for you. You keep saying that the 6th and 7th round guys you hope make the practice squad. Well, after listening to your podcast, you said that all the players were drafted had 5th round grades or higher. So wouldn't that mean wouldn't it be more of a surprise if they didn't make the team than if they did? Or does your rule of a 6th and 7th rounder still apply? Thanks, Matt. Okay, great question. So let me go back in case, because we have a lot of new people. Let me go back and rephrase this, or not rephrase it, but reiterate it. In the NFL, you expect your first 5 round guys to make your squad. And then you hope your 6th or 7th make the practice squad. This is why you'll see some teams that have a stacked roster. They just don't have very many holes. They'll trade away a lot of picks. Why? Because I'll give you an example. I'm going to make a position up. Let's say somebody desperately needed a long snapper. And I'm using a long snapper because I don't want anybody to go back and try to think about who I'm talking about. But I knew a team that needed a player to position. Obviously, not a long snapper, but for this discussion, we say it is. Okay. They knew they may have 1 or 2 spots on their roster. Maybe. And they knew they had a lot of good guys on their practice squad. So they gave a lot of picks to move up to go get one particular guy in the first round, not this year. This was a couple years ago, because they knew that guy would make the roster. But they knew these other picks don't mean that much to us because they're not going to make it. So we're willing to give those away. Now, having said that, so the analysis is that, yes, you would expect, but here's the problem with the Raiders. Okay. They don't have a ton of holes. They do have holes. I'm not saying that they don't. It's not like they only have one hole. I think probably I think 6 will make it, maybe 7. I think all 8 could, but man, that would be really hard based on the roster. So yes, I would agree with you. If you have those grades, you expect them to compete, but it's still going to be hard because there's a lot of guys on the roster that maybe you haven't seen a lot from, but the Raiders are high on. So yeah, I think that's a great point. And if you're able to keep those guys in your practice squad, great. Remember McClendon Curtis, who they got last year as a UDFA, and I told you I expected him to make the team and said, if he does not make the team, if they have to put him on the practice squad, they won't be able to keep him. And that was true. Somebody came and nabbed him off the practice squad, and he joined their 53-man roster. So, um, yes, you would absolutely, Matt, think that they would be able to make the team, but with the depth the team has, that certainly puts it into question for sure. Now, let's keep going. The next one comes to us from Joshua V. Hey, Hondo, while I really applaud Mark Davis for making the move away from Josh McDaniels last season, the timing of replacing the regime moments after the trade deadline closed was puzzling and came across as impulsive, as I'm sure it was. Can we state what the final straw was that made his decision to move on? Was the decision to let Ziegler preside over the trade deadline deliberate? Any insight and had would be appreciated. Joshua, I'm not going to get into a lot of detail on this. I already have in the past. I'll just quickly say this. Mark's intent was to let them do the season, but when he sat and watched the game in Detroit, he watched the guys. There wasn't a lot of fun. The team was struggling. Yeah, it was impulsive. Okay, even though his intent was to let it go, he had to make a change. And I've already talked extensively about more detail about that and why Ziegler wasn't kept. You can go back and find all that. But that's just a very quick synopsis of that. Thank you, Joshua. Next, hi, Hondo, longtime listener, first time emailer, but most importantly, president of the Hondo in a Hoodie Brigade. I was wondering on the podcast if you could talk about the thoughts and respond to Devontae Adams' remarks on the Max Crosby Rush podcast about how you are one of the few journalists and media members who keeps it real and authentic. What did that mean to you being hearing it from one of our own star players? Thank you, Hondo, for all you do. Sincerely, Kenny P. Well, I don't want to get into a lot of details on this because it's self-serving. But the reason that your email made it is because we got so many people asking me to comment. It was comments by Max, and I greatly appreciate it. I hold Max in very high regard. I've known him a long time. And I have nothing but respect for Max Crosby, the person, and Mad Max, the player, and I hold him in as high regard as a person as I can. He is a tremendous human being. Rachel's a wonderful lady. And again, I hold them in high respect. So it's always nice when you hear that people appreciate your work, and I was thankful for it. So thank you, Kenny. Next, Ali from San Antonio, Texas. Hi, Hondo. Thank you for keeping us level-headed as Raider fans. My question is, the internet clickbait of Tom Brady possibly coming back to play, does it have substance? Yeah, you've warned us how some media will throw something out there for viewership. Thanks again for all you do. Ali in San Antonio, Texas. So a couple things here. I don't think the report was clickbait. I think if there was a particular situation in which he felt like, I don't think he wants to play at all a whole season or the commitment that that takes. I think if there was a situation where a team had a chance to win a Super Bowl or heading into the playoffs and there was a quarterback go down or a quarterback situation, I do think Tom would listen. I believe that. I've been told that. So no, I don't think it was clickbait. I think it was legitimate reporting of where Tom was at. So there you go. Next comes to us from Rusty Cardinal in California. Hi, Hondo. Question: how soon do teams give playbooks to their players? With a new OC, I would think the sooner the player can start studying, the better. Yeah, ASAP. When they know a player is going to be part of it, I'm assuming you mean after the draft. Once they're drafted, they're getting it. Now, playbooks change. Okay, the Raiders in all of their mock drafting had no clue that they were going to get Brock Bowers. They never thought that was possible. I'm telling you, a lot of people in the NFL didn't think it was possible. So they're still adding to the playbook. That's why it's the offseason. But guys are getting playbooks who are on the team as it's being developed, and guys who are new are getting playbooks ASAP, but they're still adding to it. Especially now as they're looking at the weapons. What are we going to do? Okay, we're going to run a lot of 12 personnel now because of Brock, which is great. That 12 personnel is my favorite offense in the National Football League. Don't like it as much. I do like it in college, but not as much. I think there's some other things you can do in college. But again, I love it. It's great. I have no issues with it. And but that's how, because they're still developing. Because after the draft, once you know the personnel you're going to have, then you start to really fine tune, and that's what they're working on right now. That's why I talked about, they're watching lots of film of great 12 sets and looking at, in case you don't know what a 12 set is, that's one running back, two tight ends. They're looking at a lot of 13 sets. They're looking at a lot of other options. What can we do with Michael and what can we do with Brock to get him all involved? So there's a lot of things they're looking at, and the playbook is developing as we speak. Next, hi, Hondo. We hear everything that's good about our draft picks. I want to know what the experts are saying about what they lack and the reasons they wouldn't make the team. I understand there was some bad drafting which pushed some of the players down, but what are the other factors that push them down? Thank you for all you do, Chris Manukin in South Carolina. In Southern California. Sorry about that. So, Chris, let's walk through all of the Raiders draft picks, all 8 of them. And I'm going to give you what are their weaknesses, because they all have them. They're all human. They're all rookies. Nobody comes in a Hall of Famer. So let's start with Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is exceptionally gifted and talented. Even in the SEC, which is one of the highest levels of college football, though, he was always the best player. In fact, I was told by a scout that not one time did he step on the field last year in any game, and he wasn't the best player on the field. Now, here was Brock's problem. Is there were times he did not have to be as technique sound because he was so physically gifted better than anybody else. And in the NFL, everybody's big, everybody's fast, everybody's strong, and he's going to have to be disciplined to stay in his technique's great. That's the thing. There are some guys we're going to talk about here in a little bit whose maybe technique isn't great. His technique is great. He's just going to have to stay disciplined to be in it. Now, to his credit, when he went against guys who were better, he stayed in his technique. So there's no concern that he can't. But a lot of people felt he dropped. A lot of people thought he should have been 1 or 2 in the draft, literally the first or second pick. But that was his weakness. Okay. Now, remember, some guys, you're literally splitting hairs on. Okay, let's talk about Jackson Powers Johnson. Okay, again, same issue with him. He was so freakishly strong and so physical that he would often dominate guys, just dominate them and throw them. And the next level, you want to get to the second level and the third level. And there'd be times he'd pancake guys and lay on them, or just beat them up physically and stay with the tackle longer than stay with the blocking more than he needed to, where he could have got down the field and made a second or third. Doesn't mean he didn't do it. We're talking about all the time. No, it's fun to just beat people up. But again, had a first round grade, should have been picked in the, and remember, we were literally splitting hairs on some of these guys at the top. Okay, Delmar Glaze. All right, so love talking about Delmar. Delmar is a guy that struggled with great technique. He was big and broad and really able to handle people. Okay. But his technique was not great. Unlike Brock's, who every time he used it, it was great. It was just a matter of staying in it. Delmar's wasn't great. And I've shared this story before, but I'll tell you again, what really sent him up draft boards is he got to the senior, even in the Big Ten, which along with the SEC is the 2 best conferences for college football. And every week, even though he's going against great players, he's not going against NFL quality players. And so he was able to physically beat guys up, but there were times he was beaten by guys not as good as him, but their technique was better. So he gets to the Senior Bowl, where he played against all NFL competition. And when he got to the Senior Bowl, first 2 days were not good. After the first 2 days, he dominated. And after the first 2 days, he was the best offensive tackle at the Senior Bowl because he got coaching, he took it, and stayed there. That is why he flew up boards. Had a lot of people tell me they had a 5th round grade, a 6th round grade on Delmar. And then after the Senior Bowl, he went way up with several teams. Now, the Raiders still looked at him as a high 4, but in the group of what they wanted in a tackle, and they had a group, he was one of those guys that was there, and those tackles were going. And he was the highest rated tackle on their board when they picked. And a lot of it had to do because of the Senior Bowl. So he's already proven he can take coaching when it's provided. Remember, you can't teach the things that only God can give: size, height, strength. You can't teach a will to win, a desire to be coached. You can't teach a love for the game of football. That's side and nasty. You can't teach any of that. But when you have a guy that has all that and he's fat, faithful, available, and teachable, then you can use all that. So that was Delmar. Okay, now let's get going. Let's talk about DeCamerion Robinson. They picked him up in the 4th from Mississippi State. All right, let's talk about him. Interesting guy here. Okay, very interesting guy. Started 2 years in the SEC. This is a guy that did a lot right. A lot right. But he also at times struggled. And it's a situation where he's big, he's lanky, he's tough, all of that. But he's going to have to get better at his technique. Now, the coaching, Ricky Manning here, what he had at Mississippi State are not the same. And he's going to have to get better. And he will. I believe that. But what's one of his weaknesses? He gets out of technique. He'll take a risk. And he gets out of technique. That hurts. Okay. Now, the next one, Tommy Eichenberg, 5th round pick out of Ohio State. This one is very simple. He is so aggressive that there are times he takes himself out of plays because he is such a headhunter. He's so fierce. He's so mean. He's so tough. He wants to go knock a guy's block off. And he gets so aggressive that there are times that he can be fooled on some misdirection, can be faked out of a play because he's all see ball, get ball. He's going to have to learn to be patient and trust his reads, because in the NFL, there's a lot of motion, a lot of fakery. And it's just going to be something he's going to learn. Now, in fairness to Tommy, Ohio State was great with letting him play with that mentality because he made a lot of great plays. But he's going to get better coaching here. And Antonio Pierce is a great linebacker who early in his career, that was him. He so wanted to prove everybody wrong that he was overly aggressive. He had to wait, learn the game, learn the NFL game, which is different. But Tommy's going to be fine, but that was a weakness. Okay, then we come to Dylan Labe. Okay, couple of things here. First of all, level of competition. He did a lot really good at New Hampshire, but the level of competition, I was told this, if Dylan Labe had played in the SEC or the Big Ten, or even out west in the Mountain West or the Pac-12, no shot that this kid slips down to the 6th round. He would have been probably a 4th or a low 3rd guy. But level of competition hurts him. And you've got it. That's a legitimate concern. Legitimate concern. All right. Yeah, I would explain it like this. If you're into horse racing, and I love horse racing, you'll get some of these horses that go into the Kentucky Derby, and they're like, this horse is 19-0 or 9-0. They've never lost. And everyone's like, man, how can this guy be a long shot at 100-1? Well, he didn't compete against a lot of great horses in his past. Then some guys come in and they may be 3-0 or 2-0, but they competed against better horses, so they have higher ratings. That's just basically an explanation. Okay, Trey Taylor, 7th rounder out of Air Force. Let me tell you, everybody loves this kid. There were a lot of NFL teams that really wanted him just because of so much bad drafting. There were so many good players that he fell. Couple things about him. Okay, now, first of all, he's probably the smartest player in this draft of all the players drafted. Kid is smart. He's got a football IQ through the roof. And he may be the best kid selected in this draft. Nobody dislikes him. His team loves him. His coaches love him. The fans love him. The teachers at the academy loved him. I mean, everybody who's met Trey loves the guy. I can tell you right now, I've had more than one person say, dear God, great football player. I wish my daughter would marry that kid. That's just the kind of kid he is. He was raised by good people. That guy was raised right. But he got a couple of things. His ankles and hips, when he's changing direction, need to be worked on. That hurt him. That's why a lot of people had him with a 5th or 4th round grade, more 5th than 4th, based on what I was told. But, changing in the NFL, there's so much directions. There's double hitches. And even though you're a safety and not a corner, you got to be able to read and then react. So that's going to be something that will come. Excuse me. The one thing that I am told is that there's zero concern with Trey Taylor about his ability to correct it. So that's all good. But again, that's his. And then the other one is he is so aggressive. And someone said to me, it's fitting that he played at Air Force, because the guy comes out of a play like a missile off a Falcon fighter. A Falcon is an Air Force fighting jet. He just comes out like a missile. And sometimes he's so aggressive that he overshoots some things. So he's just going to be patient. But I will be shocked if he doesn't make the team. I'll be shocked. Absolutely. And I'm a better on this kid. I believe in this kid for every reason. I was told that he could be this class's Max Crosby, meaning a lower drafted player that comes in and just is an absolute superstar freak of nature. I am all in If I had to pick a player that I think is the biggest uh, present to the Raiders in this draft, totally him. I'm so in on Trey Taylor. I can't wait to introduce you guys to him. And really, I'm working on a story about him like we did with Max uh, the other day. And then MJ Devonshire, the kid out of Pittsburgh. So let me tell you what MJ's problem is. He's got all the God given stuff. He's physical, he's violent, all of that. The problem is he needs to play that way every single down. When he plays to his fullest ability, he's great. Not good, he's great. But sometimes in college, where the competition is there, guys get bored or they're able to not be as disciplined in their talent. And when he's gotten beat, it's when he's done that. He has to learn every down, every play, 365, 24/7, physical, 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 physical. He's got all the tools, all the tools. But why did he drop? Again, pretty much everybody had a fifth round grade on him. But why did he drop? Well, he dropped because there was a lot of bad drafting, but he also dropped, or one of his weaknesses was he's got to do it all the time. I hope that helps you. And I have no problem talking about weaknesses because everybody's got them, myself included. Next. Next comes from Dwayne Sharp. Hi, Hondo. I know Marvin Lewis was chosen as an assistant head coach, but could you please elaborate on his duties in more detail? I understand what an assistant does normally, but I'd like to hear some more insight. And it's not normal for a great head coach to take an assistant position. Dwayne, well, I would agree with you that it's not normal, but it's not really abnormal. A lot of them really will help their former proteges and guys they have a lot of respect for. Marvin's going to be all over the field. I mean, Patrick Graham's the best defensive coordinator in the NFL. Bar none, it's not even close. And for those of you that are new, I said that when he first got here and Josh McDaniels hired him. It took a ton of criticism. People who are longtime listeners will tell you that. I said it when nobody thought it. Well, when very few thought it. He is a great defensive coordinator, but he's going to have a say there. He's going to have a say on offense. He's going to have a say in game planning. He's been a head coach for so long. He's going to be a great sounding board for Antonio Pierce. Marvin Lewis is going to be probably the most valuable assistant, or one of the most valuable assistants that you see in the NFL. He was and by the way, I'm a big Marvin Lewis guy. In the interest of fair disclosure, I led Michigan State to try to hire him as a head coach, and Michigan State was about to hire him. You may remember this story. And he was asked by some certain people not to take the Michigan State job because they felt like he was going to get a head coaching job in the NFL. So he waited and did. But I am a big Marvin Lewis guy. High character, high integrity, great, great man, awesome coach. Great hire. Okay, next. This comes to us from Mike in Texas. Could you could you dive into how the roster staff looks compared to the past 3 and 4 seasons? Reasons to be optimistic, as well as things to keep an eye on of concern. I'm jazzed up, as is most of Raider Nation. We need to take a close look at what Detroit has done and chase that type of turnaround. Actually seems like a fair comparison. Could you maybe draw some comparisons, if you see any, between the two organizations and how we could follow suit to being contenders? Thanks, Hondo. Love and respect, Mike from Texas. Okay, couple of things. I shared this last year for the first time, and I'm being accountable in case anybody says, well, you said that last year. And I said there were going to be Raiders cut from last year's team that make 53-man rosters. I already mentioned McClendon Curtis. There was a couple others. That's factual. And this roster is considerably more talented. There will be multiple players that won't make this team that will make 53-man rosters next year. Multiple, not one or two, multiple. There is a lot of depth. I think they're going to keep their eye on corner. There's a lot of hope for Jacorian Bennett. He has all of the skills. And by the way, in case you're wondering, what a great kid. Now, I also want to address, I've had people say, yeah, there's nobody Hondo dislikes. That's not true. Now, it is true on this team right now, there's nobody I don't like. There was one person on last year's team that I didn't care for. But I'm not going to take personal attacks at people. If I don't care for someone, I just won't tell you that I like them. But if I do like somebody, I think it's important because I go behind the scenes and my job is to bring you stuff out of the locker room and out of the team. And I know a lot of you have kids. I know a lot of kids watch this, and I know you want to root for good people. Jacorian's good people. And he got his confidence rattled last year. And that makes sense when you're going against a Devontae and you're going against a Jacoby Myers. When you're going against some really good players, that's normal. But I know they're really hoping for him. He's worked hard this offseason. There's big hope for him. Obviously, big hope for DeCamerion. We know about Jack Jones. We know about Nate Hobbs. It's going to be interesting to watch. Do the Raiders go sign a free agent or make a trade? Or what about another pass rusher? I told you before the draft that they would certainly have been interested on the defensive line. Tyrese looks great. And Tyree's finally going to be what we thought Tyree was going to be. Okay, but he plays inside. He can go play some outside. And they've got three guys that are just solid DEs. They need to go get a fourth because Tyree can play outside and inside. I think he gives them some flexibility. So I think the comparison to Detroit is really good. They went and got Jared Goff. I can tell you for a fact the plan in Detroit was to keep Jared until they could cut him and then get a fresh start. And Jared just outplayed him. I think the feeling with the Raiders was they believed in Aiden O'Connell when they picked him. They thought they would have to develop him. He got thrown in there. A lot of people have overlooked Aiden just like they overlooked Jared Goff. And Jared Goff won a ton of respect. That's up to Aiden now. Aiden's going to get that shot. I can tell you, though, I think there's a lot of people inside this. Let me go back and rephrase it. I know there are a lot of people high on Aiden O'Connell. High on Aiden O'Connell. So, yeah, I think there is a lot of similarities. Very good question. Next comes us some Nick K. Nick is in Massachusetts. Nick K says, Hondo, I've heard this recently said, a lot of people, that Gardner's the guy. This is what the Raiders think. It's why they paid him so much money. What are your thoughts? Well, all you have to do is listen to him. I addressed this when they signed Gardner. They paid him more than most backups, but because they weren't going to go draft a quarterback unless one or two dropped, and they didn't think that was going to happen, they didn't overpay for Gardner. Yeah, they paid him a lot in year one, but he's easily dispensable in year two. But they believe you've got to have a good backup in this league, no matter who you are. I mean, I'm not as big of a Justin Herbert guy as a lot of people are. Haven't been since he came out in the draft. Good kid, by the way. Excellent kid. Just, I don't think he's the second coming like a lot of people do. But I can tell you this, Tom Telesco saw what happened when Herbert wasn't available. So I keep hearing this in edge. Oh, they paid way too much money. Dear God, give me a break. Go look at what other backups are getting paid. Was he certainly paid among the highest? Uh-huh. But if they thought this guy was coming in to be number one, they would not have structured the deal. They would have tried to go for a 3-year deal if they thought this guy was number one. Instead, it's a 2-year deal, but easily get out of it after one. It's Aiden's job to lose. I'm not saying he won't lose it. I don't know. You don't know. But no, Aiden's the guy till somebody beats him. I hope it's a great competition. I like Aiden and I like Gardner. So whomever. Next, Hondo, really enjoyed the two-part interview with Tom Walsh. I'm old enough to picture the players and formations in my mind when he describes specific plays and players. I am not an expert, and I will always learn something with these deep dive interviews. I am noticing how you are on a quest to educate Raider Nation, not because you think we're stupid, but to add depth to our fandom and to keep down on the clickbait stuff. Who use our vast numbers while giving us no real value. I wasn't a daily listener at first. That has changed. The best info is found for free here. Keep up the great work. Thanks, Kevin G. Well, Kevin, I appreciate that. I have so much respect for Raider Nation. So much respect. So much. And I certainly want you to know I don't think I'm the only beat writer that does a good job. There's really good writers who cover this team and good men. Men I consider my friends. But I appreciate you noticing that. And yeah, I think you're able to bring a Tom Walsh on because I don't think this is an ignorant fan base. Now, I'm going to say this, and this is going to sound like a slam, and it's not a slam. There are some fan bases that are not real smart football fans. Doesn't mean they all aren't, but I mean in totality. Not going to get into the teams, it doesn't matter. Then there are some fan bases that don't have good teams. Like, for example, Jacksonville Jaguar fans, there's not a ton of them because their team is so terribly run. Carolina, but there's a lot of really good, knowledgeable football people, especially in Jacksonville, but even in Carolina. That's two of the most underserved franchises. A good owner in there would tear it up. Those are some really smart fans, but I think we're able to bring more to you guys because I think, and gals, because I think Raider Nation gets it, understands it, appreciates it. And yeah, I am tired of watching Raider Nation get played for clickbait. Ticks me off, makes me angry because I care about it. I can't tell you the amount of emails I get that I just delete. I'm not going to respond to clickbait. It's not going to respond to it. Or emails that I'll get when people will take my content and go take words out of my mouth or whatever. If you want to listen to what other people say, I say, that's fine. Mine's out here. You can go hear what I have to say. But yeah, I agree. And I appreciate that you appreciate it. I thought Coach Walsh was great. Can't wait to have him back. Next, from Greg T. Hondo, the Raider organization works with does the Raider organization work with the players and coaches about how to talk to the media when on camera is on them? Well, I'm going to say this. The Raiders have a terrific PR department. And yeah, they do say to them, hey, you're probably going to get asked about this or that, or they give them heads up. Sure, they do. Every good organization does. And the Raiders are a good organization. Will Kiss and his staff, and I don't have to say that, I'm not kissing anyone's rear, do a terrific job helping the Raiders. But these guys are also pros. Now, some of them come from schools where they're not used to dealing with the media. But I think the best franchises give a little bit of help, but they don't want guys to not be who they are. So let me give you an example. I got a lot of friends who played for the Patriots and worked for the Patriots and in various jobs, on the field, off the field, whatever, management, executives, whatever, coaching. And Bill Belichick used to hold that organization under such a tight thumb that there were a lot of people that felt repressed, felt like, it's hurting me and getting my chances at other jobs. It was easy to get information out of that organization. And the Raiders are not that way. They're out there. Okay. Yeah. Go talk. Great. Yeah. Go have at it. They don't hold players from us. They don't keep players from us. I think the Raider organization handles it really well. Personally, I've been around a lot of NFL teams. I think there are some really good ones, and I think the Raiders are as good as anybody. And if you think that I'm saying that, wanting anything in return, you're not being you. Then you don't know me. I nominated him for a Pro Football Writers Association award as the best PR department. I just think they're that good. And so do I think they coach? Yes.
Do I think they tried to tell people what to do? No. No. And consequently, it's why I think a lot of the Raiders do really well with the media. All right, let's go to another one. This one comes to us from Kelly D. Kelly says, Hondo, I have been extremely critical of Mark Davis since he took over the Raiders. You have really educated me over the last year. I feel stupid that I was so critical of Mark. After I heard Coach Walsh talk about he'll get the respect he deserves when he wins, I agree. But I appreciate the fact, while you've been critical of Mark, you've also pointed out to us everything that he's done right. I agree with you now. I feel stupid for having been critical. He is an underrated owner. I agree. I think he's an underrated owner. And if I was to put together the top owners in the league, he would be in my top third. Yeah, either right there or right outside of it. I think he'd be in my top third, but I think he's a really good owner, a really good owner. I can tell you people around the league think that sometimes he maybe agrees with Roger Goodell too much and that Roger maybe takes advantage of him. I've been told that from people around the league who highly respect him, who tell me I really like Mark. I think sometimes because he saw how his dad just fought with the league all the time, I think he wants peace. And I think that's the biggest criticism of him among the league. But nobody, I don't know anybody in the league that dislikes him. They all think he's a very good owner. A lot of them think he's a very underrated owner. But if there's a criticism among the league, it would be that. But it's interesting. There you go. Okay, last one I want to get to. This may be my favorite. Well, may make me a little mad. Here we go. Dear Mr. Carpenter, my name is Taylor, and I am from Missouri. I am 8. My dad is 24. My dad is from California, and we love the Raiders. He is old like you. He's 24 and I'm 53, but I'm old, huh? Taylor? um, he is old like you and remembers when they were in California a long time ago. 5 years ago, Taylor. I realize that's more than half your life, but come on, son. That's not a long time ago. Okay. We love listening to your podcast together every day. This year, he worked extra so he can take me to a home game in Las Vegas. I am so excited. I would like to meet you if we could. My dad's dad was not good. He didn't have a dad. So he is learning how to be a good dad, and I think he's great. Oh, Taylor, I love to hear that. Let me just tell you something. Kids don't come with owner's manuals. And so, any dad that's trying, brother, you're right. You got a great dad. You are so blessed, Taylor. I hope you know you're blessed, little buddy. Let's keep going. We love it when you talk about your dad. My dad says he isn't a great dad like you because when I asked if he can't take me fishing like you do, Dexter, because his dad never taught him. Now, let me just tell you something. I appreciate that your dad maybe feels like he's got areas to learn. Not knowing how to fish doesn't make your dad a bad dad. He probably looks at my dad taught me and thinks, well, if I was a better dad, I'd be able to take you fishing because that's a lot of dads do take their kids fishing, but a lot of mamas do too, and grandmas and grandpas and uncles and aunts. Doesn't make him a bad dad. You got a great dad, Taylor. Let's keep going. My dad, he said we might watch some videos on how to fish. And he said, if I got to meet you, maybe you could give us some pointers. If you can't meet, I understand you are really busy, but dad said I could ask. If you can't meet me, could you send me a good hunting video? Or maybe when you answer questions, give me a good fishing tip. Thank you, Mr. Carpenter. I really love the show and you. Taylor, thank you, buddy. I love you too. So let me just share something, Taylor. First of all, it's very, very kind of you, and thank you for listening every day. So let me just share a couple things with you. I emailed your dad, and I think it's cool that your dad worked a lot of overtime because he's going to bring you to Vegas for a game. And I had a great talk with your dad, Taylor, a great talk. And I called him and we visited. And your dad shared a couple things with me about his life and your life. And I want you to know that you are so blessed. Your daddy loves you just like my dad loved me. And you're blessed. And you need to know it because there's a lot of boys in our world of all different colors who don't have good dads, but you do. And that's more valuable than money, is a good dad. So, anyways, I found out that your dad had been saving money, and your dad and I became buddies because of you. So now I guess you and I are buddies because I'm buddies with your dad. So I wanted to share something with you. I am going to get your dad 2 tickets because that's the most expensive part about coming to the Vegas. So your dad's going to take care of your airfare, and I'm going to, Miss Shannon and I are going to give you 2 tickets to a Raider home game. Now, your dad already knows what game, but we don't know because the schedule hasn't been released yet. But I told him which home game it would be, meaning numerically. Going to give you 2 great seats. He also happened to tell me that you and him have the same favorite Raider. I happen to be friends with that person. So I have a very special treat for you and your dad from that person. When I told him about you guys, because I just thought he'd like to know, he's like, man, what do you think I can do? And I said, I wasn't asking you for that. He goes, I know, but what do you think? And then I want to share this with you. Any dad that wants to learn how to fish so he can teach his dad is a good dad. So you get to miss not one day of school because you were going to fly in on a Saturday, go to a game, and then fly home on Monday. Your dad's going to let you miss 2 days of school. You're going to fly in on Friday because the Saturday morning before the game, I'm going to take you and your dad fishing, just us. And I may even bring Dexter Ernest Wayne. Your dad told me that you like when I have Dexter Ernest Wayne, my son, on the program. So I may even have Dexter Ernest Wayne or one of my other sons with us. I don't know that yet. And we're going to go fishing together. And it's going to be a great time. We're going to have a ball. And I'll teach you some things about fishing. And then I have one other surprise for you. And your dad doesn't know this. So you can tell him. I talked with some friends of mine who own um, a sporting goods company, and asked them if they would be interested in helping. And I'm not going to say who because then everybody wants help. Your situation. And for Father's Day, they're going to give you and your dad fishing poles, tackle boxes, bobbers, hooks, sinkers, lures, all geared towards where you live. Your dad told me of a lake and a river near you, and it's going to be fantastic. You're going to be able to give that to your dad. So now you guys have all the gear to go fishing, and I'll give you some tips. I'm sure there's a lot better fishermen who are going to help you, and you're going to get to go to a Raider game. I'm so looking forward to going fishing with you, Taylor. I can't hardly wait. I love to go fishing, but when I got to meet your dad and talk to him, I was so blessed. What a great man. And I want you to know something. He loves you. You got a dad who loves the Raiders and a dad who loves you. And he's going to be there for you. And he's going to be the best dad. And guess what, Taylor? I hope one day you join the media like me or become a football player or whatever it is you want to do. And I may not, I'm in my 50s now. So you're 8. So maybe I'll be alive when you're in your 50s. But I'll tell you this, I bet all the money I have that you're going to have memories about your dad like I do because you already think he's great. So thank you for watching. I appreciate you. I can't wait to meet you, little buddy. And I can't wait to meet your dad face to face and just go fishing with you. We'll go catch some great fish and just have a great time. And guess what? If we don't catch fish, I'll buy you lunch. Deal? Well, I guess I'll buy you lunch anyways because you can't take the fish back with you to Missouri. So I'll tell you what, I'll buy you lunch afterwards at my favorite restaurant. I'm not going to tell anybody where it's at. I don't want to go there and have a million people waiting because I'm able to get a seat there now, but we'll go to lunch afterwards. But it's going to be great, Taylor. So from all of us here at Sports Illustrated's Las Vegas Raiders coverage, thank you for joining us. And from all of us at the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast, thanks for being with us. Thanks again, Taylor, and to everybody who emailed. God bless you.